I would guess, and this is kind of a rider to that assumption, there are probably more ways to do it badly than to do it perfectly.
Today, we're going to be doing a video react to a video entitled AI and the Dangers of Superhuman Intelligence with Sam Harris. Let's go ahead and let's get started.
Both you and Elon think that with AI, you're summoning demons. Summoning a demon. Maybe not in those poetic terms, but...
Well, potentially. I mean, so
potentially.
Three very parsimonious assumptions, I think, any of which could be wrong, but it seems like the weight of the evidence is on their side. One is that it comes back to this topic of substrate independence, right? Anyone who's in the business of producing intelligent machines must believe ultimately that there's nothing magical about having a computer made of meat.
Computers made of meat. Interesting. Which isn't really too far off, I mean, as an analogy.
There's no special something that presents a real impediment to producing human-level intelligence in silico, right? Again, an assumption. I'm sure there are a few people who still think there is something magical about, biological systems.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something magical, and I think that's a spirituality that we possess that is imbued to us from God. I think it's really difficult to understand any of this without that perspective. If you like these videos, hit the subscribe and like button. It'll help us with our algorithm, get the message out there. And if you want to know whenever we do an update, hit the notification bell.
Given that assumption, and given the assumption that we just continue making incremental progress, doesn't have to be Moore's law, it just has to be progress that just doesn't stop. At a certain point, we'll get to human level intelligence and beyond. And human level intelligence, I think, is also clearly a mirage, because anything that's human level is going to be superhuman unless we decide to dumb it down, right? I mean, my phone is already superhuman as a calculator, right? So why would we make the human level AI, just as good as me as a calculator? So I think if we continue to make progress, we will be in the presence of superhuman competence for any act of intelligence or cognition that we care to prioritize. It's not to say that we'll create everything that a human could do. Maybe we'll leave certain things out. But anything that we care about, and we care about a lot, and we certainly care about anything that produces a lot of power, that we care about scientific insights and an ability to produce new technology and all of that, we'll have something that's superhuman. And then the final assumption is just that there have to be ways to do that are not aligned with a happy coexistence with these now more powerful entities than ourselves.
Harris doesn't always make it difficult to follow, but in this particular case, I am finding it difficult. I believe he's trying to also say that the alignment of those technologies to coexist with humans is important, which I agree with completely, if in fact that's the point that he's trying to make.
I would guess, and this is kind of a rider to that assumption, there are probably more ways to do it badly than to do it perfectly. That is perfectly aligned.
If we look at perfection as the penultimate, then there's going to be a lot of ways not to be perfect. I'm not convinced always that perfection is what we're after, but I certainly do agree with the fact that we need to be really cautious of doing it badly, doing it in a way that, as looks like he's pointing out, is not going to be cohesive or, as he likes to say, aligned with well-being of humanity.
When you think about the consequences of non-alignment, when you think about you're now in the presence of something that is more intelligent than you are, right? Which is to say, more competent, right? Unless you've, and obviously there are cartoon pictures of this where we could just, there's just an off switch, and we could just turn off the off switch, or they're tethered to something that makes them, our slaves in perpetuity, even though they're more intelligent. But those scenarios strike me as a failure to imagine what is actually entailed by greater intelligence, right? So if you imagine something that's legitimately more intelligent than you are, and you're now in relationship to it, right? You're in the presence of this thing, and it is autonomous in all kinds of ways because it had to be more intelligent than you are. I mean,
Wait, is he talking about God? Kidding.
Than you are. I mean, you built it to be.
But yeah,
all of those things. We just can't find ourselves in a negotiation with something more intelligent than we are. And we can't. So we have to have found the subset of ways to build these machines that are perpetually amenable to our saying, "Oh, that's not what we meant. That's not what we intended. Could you stop doing that? Just come back over here and do this thing that we actually want." And for them to care, for them to be tethered to our own sense of our own well-being, such that, I mean, their utility function is, their primary utility function is to this is, I think, Stuart Russell's cartoon plan is to figure out how to tether them to a utility function that has our own estimation of what's going to improve our well-being as its master, reward, right?
As we build forward with this, there has to be a mechanism built in that aligns and makes most central to its function, the robotic, the intelligence function with humans, being aligned with humanity and the well-being of humans and humanity. And I know, I mean, yeah, you're getting ahead, maybe decades ahead, but we need to think about those things now. Even if they're mimicking autonomy or sentience or a sense of self, they're going to take actions that would be towards the best interest of itself first. When we look around and we think about ourselves in relation to society, the bigger goal for us is the idea that we are working towards the higher values and the higher goals, and thus the individual is important, but not as important as the community, as the society. If robots or machines or superintelligence mimic that, at what point does it become at odds with the control of humans versus machines, if there's not some mechanism inherent to them?
So it's like this thing can get as intelligent as it can get, but it only ever really wants to figure out how to make our lives better by our own view of better. Now, not to say there wouldn't be a conversation about, I mean, because there's all kinds of things we're not seeing clearly about what is better. And if we were in the presence of a genie or an oracle that could really tell us what is better, well, then we presumably would want to hear that, and we would modify our sense of what to do next in conversation with these minds.
I get this point with the machines being so interconnected and having access to so much and being able to compute it, deconstruct it, and reconstruct it in blinks of an eye, in milliseconds, and evolve through how something might progress over time. In a matter of a minute, you could have tens of thousands of millions of years of progression. Use that information given to us as consideration. Absolutely. Bigger and broader perspectives that we can have on something could help us to be better informed, to make better decisions. In fact, I think that's a primary function of the automation and prediction engines that we've created so far.
I just feel like it is a failure of imagination being in relationship to something more intelligent than yourself isn't in most cases a circumstance of real peril. Because it is in every, like, just to think of how everything on Earth has to, if they could think about their relationship to us, if birds could think about what we're doing, right, they would, the bottom line is they're always in danger of our discovering that there's something we care about more than birds, right? Or there's something we want that disregards the well-being of birds.
Yeah.
And obviously much of our behavior is inscrutable to them. Occasionally we pay attention to them, and occasionally we withdraw our attention, and occasionally we just kill them all for reasons they can't possibly understand. But if we're building something more intelligent than ourselves, by definition, we're building something whose horizons of value and cognition can exceed our own, and in ways where we can't necessarily foresee, again, perpetually, that they don't just wake up one day and decide, okay, well, these humans need to disappear.
We may just be in the way. And so the analogy of an anthill, if we're building a house or paving a road, it's not that we don't value ants. It's just that at that particular time, the ants are in the way. I think the real message is, even though we may not at this point think that there could be an existential crisis when it comes to machines and artificial intelligence, we don't know that there's not. And to err on the side of caution seems like not just the logical thing to do, but also the human, the spiritual, emotional, psychological, all the things that make us human. Let's be cautious. Thank you again for joining me on an episode of Help Me Understand with Dr. Thomas Jeffrey. If you like this video and want to see more, click one of the links.